This is the ultimate question. What phone should I buy? At around $800 new and less than $500 used, this phone is in an awkward space, given that this phone was launched in the beginning of this year. Also, this video was made in this year. But I think that's what makes this a perfect formula to figure out if it's worth it. Should you buy the Samsung Galaxy S21 in 2021? Hello everyone, this is Matt from Real World Review. Check out the social media listed above if you want to talk tech, and subscribe if you want to continue watching tech. Let's get started. Instead of talking about the specs immediately, let's talk about the weird situation that this phone is set in. The Samsung Galaxy S21 was launched effectively in February 2021, and within 9 months of that, I'm working on telling you whether the phone is worth it or not. I have done my research, and this is a really interesting device given the situation that it's in right now. The iPhone 13 was just announced, meaning that old iPhones will drop in price, like the iPhone 12 mini. Yet if we go on eBay, we can see that people are still spending $640 to $700 for a used version, when the new one is only $780. But when we turn to the $800 Samsung S21, we can find this phone for less than $600, which is sad, but also refreshing. See, this is why I call this phone a beautiful failure. It's because it's actually a really good phone that can be found for a really good deal, if you look. Of course, this is still a failure, so I will go over the aspects in a few minutes, but having looked at phones like the Asus Zenfone 8, which, besides the iPhone 12 and 13, is its only competitor in the space, size-wise, the S21 ends up being the best in its size class for the Android side. Seriously, this phone isn't even trying to be compact like the iPhone 12 mini or even the Samsung S10e, but it kind of just is because there's nothing else out there. And I feel like that's what makes this phone beautiful, in the sense that it really has no competition in this space. And the best part of all of this is that using the phone actually feels good, but it doesn't come without its faults. So onto the specs, this phone has all that you need, but also some strange omissions. The screen is a flat 6.2-inch 1080p OLED display with a 20:9 screen ratio and 421 pixels per inch. The screen features a 120Hz refresh rate that is variable and honestly makes the display feel better than it actually is. Sitting at roughly 850 nits, the screen is plenty bright for everything you throw at it. This features the always-on display as well as double tap to wake and sleep, my favorites. We get the hole punch camera at the top and the ultrasonic fingerprint scanner at the bottom, both that work well and as expected. And that's it for the display. Really, that's it. The colors look amazing as you would expect, and it doesn't feel like a 1080p display, but something much better. It does feature Gorilla Glass Victus, but we all know that that has nothing to do with scratch resistance, right? Speaking of, the sides of the phone are a nice shiny aluminum that holds up fairly well, while the back is matte plastic that also holds up well. Yes, plastic on a flagship phone seems annoying, but at least it doesn't crack easily. Wait a minute. The interesting thing is that the camera area is glass, as usual, as well as the aluminum around that camera glass. It seems like the premium parts are put everywhere except for the back panel. To me, it isn't a huge deal. It doesn't really feel cheap, but it does seem weird. Before we get into the phone, let's explain what's around the phone. The top has 2 microphones, which seems odd, but it has its reasons, while the left side has nothing but antenna lines. This is also where one of the ultra-wideband 5G antennas sits. The right side is where the power and volume buttons are, and for some reason I would find myself hitting the volume down when I meant power and the reverse. Not sure if this is something wrong with me, but I did find myself doing this a couple times a day. I never really have this issue with other phones. Then on the bottom we have the loudspeaker, which is paired with the top speaker, giving us a wonderful and loud stereo effect. Then in the middle we get a USB-C 3.2 port, allowing for this phone to charge at 25 watts, which is fast enough. Then we get the SIM card tray, which does not feature a memory card slot. It's a reasonable omission if Samsung would explain why they did this, so make sure you get more than 128 gigabytes of the UFS 3.1 storage if you really need it. Sadly, it does max out at 256 gigabytes. Moving to the inside, we have the best of the best, but also not. We're given a Snapdragon 888 chip, just like the Samsung S21 Ultra, but this is paired with 8 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM. This ends up working out well with little to no lag or glitches in my usage. To power the phone, we are given a 4000 mAh battery, which works, but it isn't that powerful in my tests, lasting a day with not the best screen on time. In no way is it easy to get 2 days of battery life here. But like I said, we are given 25-watt charging, as well as fast wireless charging, and even wireless power share, a feature that seems more and more useful as time goes on. Then we have the little bits like IP68 water and dust resistance, Wi-Fi 6, 5G with ultra-wideband support, and my favorite, the weight of 171 grams. Maybe that plastic was worth the weight savings. When compared to the Samsung S20, the cameras are pretty much the same, like literally the same specs on paper, but images come out looking a little bit nicer on the S21, in my opinion. All this means is we get a 12 megapixel ultra-wide camera that lacks autofocus, a 12 megapixel standard camera that retains a super fast autofocus and optical image stabilization, and a 65 megapixel telephoto camera which feels like a 3x camera but isn't. This one is also optically stabilized and has fast autofocus as well. So first of all, I say the telephoto isn't a 3x camera because when you use 64 megapixel mode, it's really just that sensor, which is really cropped the same as a normal 12 megapixel sensor. Funny enough, in 64 megapixel mode at 3x, your shots won't look as nice as normal 3x shots. But regardless, shots on any of these sensors are going to look amazing. This is, just like most Galaxy S devices, my go-to for when people want amazing photos for events or things like that. Samsung just makes shots look amazing. I don't know how to explain it. And here's some more pictures and videos that were taken with some music. Enjoy. It is kind of annoying that the ultra-wide camera doesn't focus, just like the $6 one found in the S21 Ultra. Yeah. As for video, we get the same options as the Samsung S20, 4K up to 60 frames per second, and even 8K at 24 frames per second. Which, the 4K looks absolutely amazing, while the 8K definitely has a lot to improve on, but at least it's something for us to look forward to. Just someone has to let me know when we can do 8K at 60 frames per second. Then we have the focusable 10 megapixel front camera, something that no foldable Samsung phone can do. This produces some nice focus shots, as well as capturing 4K at 60 frames per second, video-wise. All of this sounds decent for an $800 device, but for $500 used, now we're talking. I forgot to mention in my S21 Ultra video, and not a single person complained about it, the feature that Samsung advertises. Director's view. Kind of like single take, I don't get it. However, the rest of the camera app is filled with a lot of decent features. And that's pretty much this phone. Just like most newer phones, this really is just a polished version of the S20, but in this case we lost the glass back and SD card slot, and in return we got a normal spec boost as well as, well, not really anything else. A slightly heavier phone? I mean, at this point, flagship phones like the S21 are at its peak with the yearly spec boost, and by that I mean a newer processor. And that's pretty much the major difference between this year and last year's model. If you couldn't tell, talking about this phone is boring, and at times using the phone was boring. But sometimes boring is a good thing. Sure, we can hunt for food and live an exciting and dangerous life, or choose to live the boring life and just go to the store and buy food. See, boring doesn't mean bad, it just means that you're probably just too comfortable. And that's what this phone is, a comfortable and safe flagship choice that made an already amazing Samsung S20 even better and more polished, just with a plastic back. This is really why I ask if this phone is worth it in 2021, because there are better phones like the Plus version of this phone, or the Ultra version of this phone, but in this size the only other type of phone like this is the Zenfone 8. Then the fact that depreciation hits Samsung phones hard, leading me to wonder what the benefits of buying new really are, even in 2021. In all seriousness though, this design looks so much better than the S20. I don't understand how Samsung got away with the S20 look. So should you buy this phone in 2021? Obviously, I would have to say yes. Like I said, this is a safe device that fits all your needs, as long as you don't require a headset jack or a memory card slot. But really, this is a well-rounded device that's made by a company that will give you software updates at a reasonable speed, offer a simple warranty process if there are any defects, and give you the confidence that allows you to use this phone with no worries. Personally, I feel like there are better options out there, but they just don't wrap it up in the same package that Samsung does, at least on the Android side. And that's my review of the Samsung S21, the #1 compact flagship phone in 2021, followed by the only other option out there. But what do you think? Let me know in the social media listed above, and as always, thanks for watching.